Good morning, everybody. It's David coming back at you, and welcome back to Zone 5B in the southwest suburbs of Chicago, Illinois. It is a beautiful Sunday here in September. Temperatures are in the 80s, so we're back up into those warm temperatures after that cold streak. I am out of the house taking a look at my orchard. So I went by the other day to catalog everything that I have to try to better prepare. I also did place an order for some Asian pear trees that I'm going to try for next fall or next summer. But everything over here is looking pretty good. The lemon and orange seem to survive that little cold snap pretty well. I still have the lights on there. I've tried to fertilize my blueberries because they're not looking very good. I did use fertilizer for acid-loving plants. So I don't know if these three in particular are going to go anywhere. There wasn't a lot of root development when I up-potted them because they did get up-potted to bigger pots as well. So I don't know if these are going to be lost causes or not. They still do look alive, which is definitely a plus, but I don't know if we're going to have to start over on those next year. This one is still doing really well. Banana plant survived. This is my peach. And the other day, when I was out here just doing some pruning, I realized I lost my peach. So I don't know if I knocked it off when I was covering these with the plastic to try to keep them protected, or if an animal came in and got it, but the one peach I had growing is gone. So my hope is for next year. This is the blood orange. Again, I've had that for 2 years now. It's doing really well. I didn't really know what I was doing last year. So this is an example of how something can survive even if you don't necessarily know completely what you're doing. I apparently did just enough to keep it alive. And then this year, getting it outside, getting it up potted, feeding it, it is doing really, really well. So looking forward to seeing what that can do next year. And then my Granny Smiths have actually put on a lot of late growth that I'm going to prune off. But what I was thinking about doing is taking some of these offshoots that I'm going to prune off and possibly trying to bud graft some of these onto one of my other apple varieties just to see if I can kind of create a 2-in-1 tree. The Asian pear tree that I ordered is actually, I think, a 3-in-1, so it'll have 3 different Asian pear varieties on one rootstock, so it'll save space. So the trees are all doing really, really well. Back here in the garden yard area, we're kind of in a mixed bag. I do still have tomatoes on the vine. I do still have a lot of those growing, but I did also have a couple that had died. And I think the ones over here really died because of my chickens. I think for whatever reason, the chickens decided to go after a couple of those, so I pulled those out of the ground. I do want to top it off with some more dirt, add some nutrients to it, and then maybe get some lettuces and maybe carrots in there for the fall before we hit our cold temperatures. Since we are still in the kind of warm temperatures, the shift to the slightly cooler temperatures should help with that. And over here in the raised bed garden, the cucumber plants, we're still really, really pushing out cucumbers. I do still have a lot of baby cucumbers growing, but you also see that some of them are starting to die back and die off. So my goal today, my basil has flowered here. My goal today is to get some of this cleaned up. I did some pruning. I did remove a lot of the overgrowth in this area. My nasturtiums kind of ran wild, so I pulled those out of there. The squash that didn't work, I pulled out of there. The dead squash that did work, I pulled out of there. So just trying to do a little cleanup. And as far as the bed goes, I know I do want to plant a cover crop in here. I bought some hairy vetch seeds, which will help add nitrogen back to the soil. And I'd like to get that in there to kind of revitalize the soil, but also possibly use it for maybe some carrots or some lettuces here before the end of the season. My peas, I did let go to seed, but that's okay because peas are another great plant to add nitrogen back to your soil. So I'm going to leave that in, and when I cut it down, that should help revitalize the soil. The marigold over here is still growing out of control, and you can see the cucumber just growing out of my garden bed. Basil, again, is doing really, really well. All these beans on the vines. I do still have some eggplant developing. I think this might be my last year growing eggplant. I just haven't been consuming the eggplant like I'd hoped. And then somewhere under this mess of cucumber, because my cucumbers grew out of the vine over here and they're attacking my asparagus fronds, is my grapevine. And I do actually have some small grapes on the vine still. So this was my first year grape plant. You can see my broccoli. And I actually pruned this back a lot last weekend. I have some basil that's flowering there. So sometimes it's good to let things go to flower as far as attracting pollinators. Oh, the one thing I wanted to mention. So this raised bed is the one that, it was my first raised bed. So I had it last year, and I had a ground cherry in there. This year, my ground cherry is that gigantic mess over there. The problem with ground cherries is the fruit drops off the plant when it's ready to be eaten. And if you don't pick it all up, it'll then reseed itself. So all of these and this ground cherry plant right there was self-seeded from last year. And I ended up pulling out a bunch of tiny self-seeded ground cherries. Again, just those seeds kind of drop to the ground. That's what the plant's goal is. That's what the plant's designed to do. And they do decompose really, really quickly. So it can reseed itself so fast. And on this monster here, which I do want to cut down, I think, today. Here's one of the ground cherries growing. I haven't gotten a ton of fruit. And here you see one of the bigger ones. When they're ripe, it should turn that brown, like papery husk and fall off the plant. And I just haven't had many of those do that this year. But over here, let me see if this one's still good. This is what it looks like when it's ripe. Let me see if the fruit inside is still good. So that's what a ground cherry looks like. The one over in that garden bed were a lot smaller than this. This is a giant size ground cherry. And I see a ton in there. But I can't even see because this plant has grown so out of control. So this is a strawberry ground cherry. And ground cherries have such a unique taste. It's kind of a mix between like a cherry tomato and an actual cherry fruit. So it has a makeup like a cherry tomato as far as being very seedy inside, kind of the same texture, but the flavor definitely leans more towards the fruit side of things. So I do really like ground cherries, but the ground cherry this year just got way out of control. Now this bed, this was my new raised garden bed that I just put in this year. It was probably 80 to 90% compost. And apparently it was a very good compost. You see, I do have some cayenne peppers here. Still have a ton of banana peppers to harvest. I still have a ton of shishito peppers in there to harvest. And everything in this bed has grown out of control. So I should have stayed on it a little better as far as pruning goes. I didn't think the ground cherry was even going to survive because of that storm that blew my lid shut and damaged the plant so early on. So it's that time of year I want to start doing a little bit more cleanup. I want to get the cucumbers pulled, especially the ones that are sick and dying anyway. Sort through here and see if I have any hidden cucumbers that are actually finished. like way down here. This monster. And I have to say, this has been by far my best cucumber year. And I've had a lot of really big cucumbers that have been hidden because of the way that it is overgrown. So I should have been more on trellising this, maybe keeping it pruned. But I can't complain about the results because we've gotten so many cucumbers. And you can see there are just a ton that are still growing, even though the plant doesn't look super healthy anymore. So that's kind of the goal today. Get some stuff cleaned up. Get it prepared to either winterize or get that hairy vetch planted in here to help revitalize the soil for next growing season. So my potato bags, I do probably need to harvest those just to see if I have anything in there. Again, that was kind of a favorite of my chickens before I moved it in here in the fenced-in garden as well. So I kind of learned my lesson as far as the new chickens go this year. So that's where we're at today. I'm going to get to work. I bought bottling bags that I can put a lot of my pruned plants in because I don't want to throw it in my compost because I don't want those seeds to be in my compost, especially with the ground cherries because they can be so invasive because they reseed so easily. So stay tuned. I'll come back when I get some work done just to show you guys what I've done. And hopefully that'll be a lot. So I'll talk to you guys in a little bit. Hey guys, I'm back. I just wanted to give a quick little update. I told you guys a few videos ago, a while ago, that I wanted to show you the good and the bad, and I was going to include my failures. So I want to include my failures for you. And that would be my deck garden. Definitely some little successes, right? My single seed challenge that I put a cutting in is fruiting. I have a pepper that wasn't getting enough sunlight, so it is really stretching, and it's actually producing some bell peppers. I have gotten tomatoes off of the tomatoes in these little grow containers, but these are some of my biggest failures because these are plants that have been successful in spite of me, not because of me, because I have not been good to these poor plants. I didn't trellis them correctly, so you see a lot of bent over branches that are still producing fruit for me, like this one here. I didn't prune it or trim off dead and dying leaves. I really kind of neglected these in favor of my raised beds in my bucket garden, and it's still doing pretty well for me. I haven't made it to my raised bed yet because I noticed the mess that was my green stalk. These are strawberries, all strawberries. And one of the problems, which is a really good problem to have most of the time with a lot of strawberries, is the runners, right? They want to reproduce by creating these runners, these long vines that then try to replant themselves. So if I put this, you know, it's a little blurry. If I put this in dirt, it'll become a whole new strawberry plant. And that's what I've done with some of my plants over here, right? A couple of these I started from runners. The problem is if you don't manage your runners, like this one down here, that is all runner that I'm going to have to cut off. It saps energy from the plant. And then once it roots, you snip the runner. Basically, it's like an umbilical cord, so it's no longer stealing energy from the mother plant as well. So I have a ton of strawberries, strawberry plants. My peppers, these are the late peppers that I planted. They are starting to fruit. But my failures were these buckets, which started out as successes. If you remember, I had arugula in one, I had bok choy in one, I had some lettuce in one. We did harvest some of the lettuce, but as far as the arugula and the bok choy, kale, which now has strawberries in it, I just didn't take care of these as well as I should. So there were pest problems, there were disease problems. I finally ripped them all out. I am going to use these buckets though. I topped it off with some extra soil I had, and I'll show you why I had extra soil. And I'm going to try to do carrots And I'm going to try a head lettuce again, because again, our temperatures are starting to get a little cooler. So hopefully some of those fall. Oh, broccoli was the other thing. I had one of these, and I just overplanted it. But my biggest failure, other than my celery, which first year growing it, I just didn't really maintain it, so it looks kind of sick and sad now, would be these two trays. If you watched my old videos, some of my other earlier videos, these two trays were filled with all of these planting cups in an attempt to start seeds. And the seeds that I started varied from Walla Walla onions to some more beets to jalapeno peppers to strawberries. I was to my pineapple ground cherries, which I think they're bad seeds because I can never get those to germinate. These all failed. I did start them later in the growing season. Some of it was an attempt to have stuff ready to go when stuff in the garden started to die, but none of these germinated at all. And a lot of that could be my fault. It could be overwatering, because out here the rain would fill this up and I wasn't always on top of it. It could be underwatering because, again, these weren't on a timer like my garden beds and buckets are. So they might not have been getting the water, the nutrients, and the general attention that they really needed to get. So I took all of the soil from each of those, which you can see is still a really nice dark, looks like healthy soil. And I filled up the buckets that I'm going to do some of my fall plants in. My herb garden here just isn't doing super well. I did have some rosemary pop up. It's dying on me now. Some parsley over here. I did try to up pot cutting from my basil. And a lot of this, I think, again, is water. Because when it would rain, I wasn't super good at draining the water. This is lemon balm that's doing really good. And then I had some Thai basil that went to seed over there. But Thai basil smells amazing, so I'm not sad about that at all. My pumpkins that I started late in the season just to see if I could kind of got ruined by the chickens again. Anything I put close to the deck, the rails of my deck, the chickens will really go at, because they like to sleep on the deck in the summertime. So, and just wanted to show you guys that gardening in my channel aren't at all always about success. It's about failing. It's about failing sometimes a lot. From it, taking lessons from it, trying things, trying new things, and seeing what grows or what you like or what you don't like. Next year, I was pretty successful with okra. I just don't think I'm going to grow it because I'm not a fan of okra. So I will concentrate on the things that I do enjoy more, like the sweet peppers and jalapenos and tomatoes and cucumbers. I might not do eggplants again. This is my second year. I was successful growing it, but there's no point in growing something that I'm not going to use, or I don't have somebody who's going to use it, or that my kids won't eat. So again, I wanted to show you guys kind of an intermediary step here of me cleaning up. And again, it's not all about success. Sometimes it's the failures and what we can take from those. So I'm going to continue working hard out here in the garden, and I'll be back with you guys in a little bit. All right, everybody, I am back. So back to, I am planting some head lettuce, some evergreen bunching onions, and then trying carrots 2 more times. I don't ever have too much, but I keep trying, because I think a fresh carrot out of the garden would be one of the more rewarding things that you could grow. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update as far as the garden clean. This would all be the ground cherries. Check out the stem on the one ground cherry plant. That thing is massive, and the roots are still in the ground. So I'm probably, there you can see the roots, gonna have to get it pulled out. So what I will say about the strawberry variety of ground cherry, it is very prolific grower. It is crazy how big it grew. The one that I had last year was a tiny kind of little bush that I got a ton of fruit off, but it didn't overtake an entire garden bed either. And here is the other one that I pulled up from the roots. The other thing I will say about this variety, for some reason, the ripe fruit did not fall off the way that it's expected to. So a lot of it rotted on the vines. And here, get out of the light, you'll see what I can best describe as adventitious on the ground cherry. That storm blew through early in the year and it split my ground cherry plant. I thought a lot of those branches would die, and instead, where it made contact with the ground, it actually rooted itself. So I ended up having more like a handful of ground cherry plants all growing out of control, which is just crazy. So over here, I did go through and pull everything except my grapevine, which obviously are going to stay, some basil that I have growing, and then one of the strawberries that I put in there. I will have to watch that strawberry for those runners so it doesn't spread and try to overtake the garden. Other than that, I did leave some of my bean plants because, again, bean plants can add nitrogen back into the soil, but I want to pick the pods so it doesn't reseed itself. So what you have is a much neater garden bed. I will be pruning the grapes here as we go along. The marigold just took over and actually blocked a couple of the eggplants that I've been trying to grow, and the cucumbers just dominated everything in this section. I do have a ton of grapes, which is awesome for first year with the grapevine. Now these I thought were seedless, but I noticed when I tried one the other day, there are a bunch of little seeds in there that could be, maybe I'd let them grow too long. Not real sure about that. And then over here now, oops, now that I've got all those cucumbers out of the way, you can see my asparagus. These are all my asparagus fronds. You're not supposed to remove them just yet. It's helping build that root system because asparagus grows back year after year after year. You don't harvest it the first year, and you don't harvest it the second year, I believe. I think the third year you can start harvesting a little at a time, and I just planted those this spring. So you can see a much different garden bed. Now I have to decide what to do. I would love to solarize this garden bed, put some of that clear plastic or black plastic over it while the temperature's still high in the 80s and 90s, and just burn out any of the seeds that are in the ground, but I really can't because of things like my grapevines. I'm not happy with their location, but they did grow like crazy, and I don't know where else I would put them. I thought about maybe along the fence, but then I would have to fence off some more to keep the chickens away. So that's still something I need to think about. The strawberries I can always relocate because I just put those there a couple months ago as well. So much different garden bed, kind of preparing for that fall end of season. I do still have hundreds of peppers growing here of all kinds. I did just find some of my first taste hybrids that were hidden under all those ground cherries. This one was one of the late cayennes that I planted, so I'm looking forward to that. And just the peppers all over the place still. So I do need to, when something's been in here, I do need to harvest and figure out what I'm going to do with all my peppers. But a lot more open space. So if I want to try some more carrots, I can try carrots. If I just want to finish the cleanup here and plant that cover crop of hairy vetch to try to get more nutrients in the ground for next year, I can do that. And the hairy vetch, I could plant over winter and then mow into the ground next spring to add all that nitrogen to the soil. And again, here is the root from that ground cherry. I will get that pulled up eventually here soon. So I'm just about done. This is just kind of fall garden cleanup. Now I get to decide if I want to plant more stuff for the fall. We are already pushing mid-September. Today's September 14th, and we're still in the 80s. So I don't know if fall and the frost is going to come suddenly and fast and shock us all, or if it's going to come later in the year this year, because all the seasons seem to be a little off. So I do have a little bit more cleanup to do. All the work with you guys. Got to get those little ground cherries out before they reseed themselves next year. Thank you guys for watching. Oh, and I found while I was pulling through my cucumber vine there. If you like the content, please hit that like button. It helps the channel. Subscribe so you know when my next video is going to be posted. I've been a little more erratic here. I'm only doing one video a weekend when I can. But hit the subscribe button so you know when I post. Share my channel. That would help as well. And next time I'll have to remember to wear my shirt. I created a shirt just to help advertise the channel a little bit. And I will show you guys next time. So thank you guys for watching. Remember, never stop growing. Remember, grow a little every day. Get outside. Enjoy the weather while you can. Get the garden beds ready or plant some fall crops. You still have time to get some fall crops in the ground. Carrots, radishes, quick growing lettuces. So get your hands dirty. Give gardening a try. And I'll see you guys back here again real soon on Come Grow with David A. Have a good week.